you, being a man of color, when exactly was America great? What period was America great? And if America was great in that period, would you personally go back to it?
Would I go back to 2016 through 2020 in this country? I would, actually. I think America was great then.
And why do you think America was great?
Was America great for most of our national history? I think we were, actually. I think America was great.
During slavery, during redlining, Jim Crow laws, civil rights movement.
I think, was America perfect? No. Was America great? Yes, it was, actually.
Actually,
I do think it was.
And a very big extreme that you're jumping, because when exactly was America great? America is not great for the African American woman. America is not
I disagree.
great for.
I think there's.
Like what? Are we
can I ask you one question?
What exactly
What's your name?
I'm Felicia.
Felicia. What other country for an African American woman is better than the United States of America?
Well, I live in the United States of America, so I only want to talk about the United States of America.
Right, exactly. So what country, when I talk about whether America is great, I'm not talking about whether America is perfect.
Well, that's why I'm confused, because when was America great for somebody like me? You just told me
I think America's been great. Yeah, so I think
America great. You just told me where somewhere else that America was great.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just told me basically that it wasn't great for me.
I think America is the greatest country on planet Earth for you.
How?
That's what I believe. That's what I believe. Because this is a country where you can achieve the maximum of your God-given potential by working hard.
I am an African-American woman.
Welcome, guys. So I want to talk about systematic racism, the professional victimhood narrative that goes on in the collective of the Black community conscious, Black culture, all the incentive structures in there for people to be a professional victim. Now, it's a very safe thing to do from a human psychology thing, to blame other things and not make things your fault, blame other things, say, oh, look, I'm just a helpless victim in it. But it's a lie you're telling yourself. It's a comforting lie that in the long term has stagnated and held back the Black community. This is just my conclusions to things. And when she talked about this question, when was America ever great? I will say, yeah, overall, America was great. America is great, actually, throughout the history of the country. And when you deep dive, again, this is why I have a problem with Democrats. Democrats, when they do something wrong, they spread the blame around. What are you talking about? She mentioned Jim Crow. What was Jim Crow political affiliation? Democrat. Woodrow Wilson, who brought up redlining, no, that's FDR, my bad, who was another Democrat, by the way, redlining, Democrat. Federal segregation created by Woodrow Wilson. Before Woodrow Wilson, segregation was only regional. Only southern states, which is Jim Crow, practiced segregation. Northern states didn't practice segregation. They didn't have segregated stuff in northern states before Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson came in, did Birth of the Nation, right? Propagandized white people into democratic white people to villainize, and that's what created the Ku Klux Klan, right? Woodrow Wilson did that. A Democratic president did that, but America's fault. Everything's America's fault. Fine, whatever. And in the southern states, most of them were Democrats, slavery. Democrat was defending slavery. Republicans were created to reject, counter slavery. Democrats defended slavery. Democrats were one, like when Hitler was here trying to devise plans to discriminate against Jews, he borrowed it from the Democratic Party. Ku Klux Klan was hanging, lynching, not just Black people, but Northerners who were Republicans, to create fear in that region that you better not vote Republican. If they find out you voted Republican, you're going to get hanged, whether you are Black or white. Black people tend to forget that. Lynching didn't only affect Black people. It affected white people too, but they don't do any history. Some people, what I noticed a lot of people do in my community is that they'll look through history to prove a conclusion of themselves, a conclusion that they have. They see, oh, Black people got lynched. Okay, Black people was the only one getting lynched. And then they ignored the narrative like, no. Anyone who supported the Republican Party got lynched because the purpose of lynching wasn't just suited in racism, but it was a political tactic to intimidate people not to vote Republican. In those regions where the first Black Republican came up, they end up becoming Democratic states because of the fact that the Ku Klux Klan was terrorizing the people there and intimidated people not to vote for the Republican. That's how they end up becoming Democrats. Democrat southern states. But without those contexts in history, they like to project this narrative, oh, when was America great? It was always great. It was always fighting against being a better country. It was always fighting to be a better country. But you had some people, mostly Democrats, who wanted to use the state as a power. Many people, and I'm gonna end off this, and then we'll get back into the video. I just wanted to highlight this, that there's a socialist called George Fitzhugh, if I remember his name correctly. George Fitzhugh. His nickname was the Honest Socialist. And he said that slavery is socialism and that it should be a good thing, because look at the slave. The slave don't have to worry about his health care. He don't worry about his food because the master provided for him. All he has to do is contribute his labor. And when he dies, from cradle to grave, the master takes care of him. That don't sound like socialism? From cradle to grave, the government takes care of you. But you have to do things in the government's interest. You got to work. You got to contribute to society still. But government gets to decide how to distribute all the labor, all the resources to everyone else. Centralized power. This is why I'm so adamant against socialism, communism. That's why I don't like it at all. Because I equate socialism to slavery. Tell me I'm lying in the comment section. But before I go into any further, there's an interesting clip that I want to highlight about what's going on in Chicago and how many black people are starting to wake up like, yo, race don't matter as much as you think it does. We just care about competent people ruling our government. And you're going to see this black man here lambast Brandon Johnson about him wasting money on makeup. And this is what's the problem with socialists and many people of the Democratic Party, is that y'all don't know how to manage resources effectively. And y'all waste money on things that sounds absurd. Like, you're going to hear from this segment, and then we'll get back to Vivek breaking down this lady's victim mentality. Let's take a look.
But I got a Christmas present for you. Let's remind the people of Chicago that Brandon Johnson spent $32,000 in campaign funds on haircuts and makeup. So I got an early Christmas present for you, Brandon Johnson. This is some makeup for you right here. You got some rouge, you got the makeup brush right there, so you can save this people some money, for crying out loud. Now, let me tell you people, I'm going to be serious here. We need to start voting different in these cities like New York and Chicago. Stop voting these people in. It's not Democrat versus Republican anymore. It is populist versus establishment. It is the populist versus the establishment. Stop letting them trick you into the race baiting when it comes to Brandon Johnson. Oh, black people need help too. Trump want to hurt black people. What are you talking about? We're legal here. We are legal. Now, I'm trying to be nice about this, and Mr. Brandon Johnson, I do respect you in a little bit of way because you're trying the best that you can. I really want to believe that, but listen, man, you got a 14% approval rating, so the people is looking like they're telling you that you're fired, man. So I'm just humbly asking you, Brandon Johnson, to please come up with something that's reasonable by the end of this year, because I don't want to see a government shutdown, Mr. Brandon Johnson. Please do your job. I don't care if you're black. Chicago needs to get rid of DEI. I don't care if you're black. Can you do the job? Can you do the job, Mr. Brandon Johnson? And it's looking like you can't do the job. So please don't fail us.
Race doesn't matter. Are you competent? Are you intelligent? Are you strong? Are you fast? Do you have the skills? That's what matters the most in this country. And this professional victimism that this black lady is trying to do, I've seen it time and time again in my community. Right? Like, you see this lady, she's overweight. I'm just calling it like a spade. She's overweight. And there's black women always try to talk about how, it's systematic racism the reason why I'm fat like this. No. Oh, we can't afford high quality food. Well, you heard of soul food before, right? It's cultural in the black community that our diet tends to not set us up for healthy outcomes. I'll say it like that. And there's a lot of negatives for being overweight. And then when you face the consequences of being overweight, lower life expectancy, higher mortality rates in pregnancies and birth, you're going to try to blame doctors and systematic racism. This is what I'm talking about. Systematic racism causes more damage to the mentality of the black community than anything else before. Systematic racism removes you from seeing how you can optimize and react to situations that happen to you. Because end of the day, and I'll end it off with this kind of like, this is like core to my beliefs, is that I can't control what happens to me. I only can control how I respond. I can't control if someone says a racist thing to me, but but I can't control how I respond to that racist thing. Oh, black people can't be engineers. Black people can't be successful in this country. Black people can't make it out of the hood from a single mother household. I had black people telling me that, but it's still racist because you're assuming because of the color of my skin, my outcomes are fixed. It's not. And this is the mentality that's being infected in the black community. And I believe this does more damage than the reality of racism in this day and age. And it's true. I destroyed all those arguments. I destroyed all those narratives. I became everything that people say I couldn't be. Oh, you're trying to be white. You're trying to act white. That's racism. So being able to speak standardized English is being white. Make it make sense. While I'm just trying to be an effective communicator, I'm actually trying to learn the language of the land that I want a high income in, because this is the thing they don't talk about when they brag about systematic racism, is that the fact is most high-paying jobs in America requires you to know English well. So if you don't know English well, your likelihood of earning a high income is low. This is why Hispanic people tend not to have a high income on average, is because of the fact that they have an unwillingness to learn English. Black people, Black Americans, what's the name? Ebonics? Y'all don't talk proper English. It's hard for y'all to communicate usually on average. And this is why most of you guys have a lower income than most people in America. But instead of blaming your actions, instead of blaming your behaviors, instead of blaming your own decision makings, you want to blame some boogeyman called systematic racism. And this is why I think systematic racism is a figment of the Black America's imagination. I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for that in the comment section, but in my view, racism only accounts to 4% of the problems in my life.
Institutionalized systematic racism.
I don't believe that
yes, I am.
to be true right now.
I am.
There are points in our history where that was true.
Yes,
I think
today
you are free to achieve.
And I would like to talk about how people like to bring up affirmative action as well.
Well, let me just address your first point. Let me just address your first point.
It really
I think this is the country on earth where you're able.
Affirmative action is systematic racism. If you say that we have to discriminate against one group of people because they happen to look like another group of people, that's discrimination. That's racism, right? So affirmative action is racism. Because if you start switching up your logic the moment that I change the parameters of your theory, right? Because if I accept the fact that, okay, affirmative action helps Black people at the expense of white people and Asian people, you say that's a good thing. But if I flip it and say, okay, the system discriminates against Black people for the benefit of white and Asian people, you'll say that's racism. You will say that's systematic racism. But just because I change the skin colors of who benefits from it and who doesn't benefit from it, all of a sudden, Black liberals start making excuses for it. This is a problem. And end of the day, I don't know if Black people or people are aware of it, but we're a multiracial republic. We got Asians here, we got Hispanics. It's not just white people now. So the fact that out of the 4 major groups that's in this country that I can name off the top of my head, Asians, the Blacks, the whites, the Hispanics. The Blacks feel like, oh, the system should work in our benefit because we face discrimination before in the past, when no one here alive has experienced racism or slavery at the same level as Martin Luther King and people years prior. No one's that old. So you got this younger black woman from a historical sense, claiming that she was affected by systematic racism that happened before she was even a thought, before she was even conceived, a thought before she was even born. But for some reason, that's holding her back. It sounds like she has a mentality problem, and that mentality is holding her back. And she doesn't want to take accountability for her mentality, so she wants to make excuses. This is what it comes off across. This is why systematic racism, worrying about it, does a disservice to the Black community. And I don't care who I offend. I don't care who feelings it hurts, because hit dogs holler. And I'm hitting a lot of dogs today because I'm tired of this mentality. You keep doing the same stuff. You keep believing the same stuff over and over and over again. And look at the results. The Black community is stagnant. The Black community is still at the bottom. You're still blaming white people, but Asian people are the most successful race in the country today. Asians have the highest income right now in this country today, but you're still saying white supremacy, the system set up against us. Asians looking at you crazy. Hispanics looking at you crazy. White people looking at you crazy. And between those 3 races, all 3 of these races say that Black people are more likely to be racist than any other group in America. But you still don't want to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what do we have to fix? What do we have to change to get better outcomes? I think black people are going to come to a point, and you're already starting to see the shift. Black people are going to come to a point where they're gonna scream racism one too many times, and no one's going to believe them anymore. It's the boy who cried wolf scenario. But I digress. I think I ranted enough. I'm going to let this play out for 2 more minutes.
To achieve the maximum of your potential without your skin color standing in your way. This is a country where
that's not true.
I believe it is true.
That's not true.
What are you unable to
America,
achieve, ma'am? Felicia,
Wells
what can
Fargo,
you?
they literally all
What
of
do
these
you
other
wish to
banks
achieve?
just got sued for not giving home loans to African American people. That happened in 2024.
So let me just ask you, what do you
so-called lower of the property value?
So let me tell you, as a Felicia,
and its ramifications.
Donald
of
Trump
when
is running
a certain somebody was president.
Donald Trump is running to make America first a reality for all Americans. Let me ask you something very personal, because you made it personal to you. What do you want to achieve in this country that you believe you can't right now because somebody else is stopping you because of your race?
Well, right now, as my future career, I want to be a criminal defense attorney.
Okay.
However, as we can acknowledge, there's only 5% of black lawyers.
I'm going to repeat this again. Data proves an outcome. Data tells you what happened. Data does not tell you why it happened. That's up to you to make that argument. And the fact that the black community only produced people where only 5% of it were black, that's not like that's something that's the community's thing, not the system's fault. It's not the system's fault. It's like me saying the white community is facing systematic racism because of the fact that the white community is 66% of the population, but in the NBA it's 78% black. So how is a country that's 66% white, but only 12% of NBA players are white? Make it make sense. Is that systematic racism? No. No one's screaming it's systematic racism. The NBA is practicing systematic racism because it makes no sense that 30% of the population is 78% of a league in a country that's majority white. That don't make no sense. But no one's screaming that. Everyone accepts the reality that, hey, the black community tends to produce better athletes. Just like the Asian community tends to produce highly Ivy League students. Same argument. My argument is consistent no matter if you switch the parameters to being white people, black people, Asian people, Hispanic people. I'm able to point out a behavior and associate why that outcome is due to the behavior, not due to your skin color. And this is the logical fallacy of the systematic racism, is that it doesn't make you focus on things that have a higher probability of correlating with the outcomes that's affecting the community. You're pointing out the community's lack of ability to put out people who be able to be competitive enough to be representative in an industry. Do you know, lady, there's certain industries that don't even have a single black graduate. So is it the system's fault, or is it the black community's culture that doesn't produce someone that's able to get a degree in, let's say, aerospace engineering? Aerospace engineering, I might be wrong, but there's not enough black people to even meet the 30% representation quota that DEI and affirmative action tries to do. So how are you going to hit that number in an industry where the availability of qualified candidates are less than representation? You have to lower the bar. And this is the argument that conservatives have been pointing out about systematic racism. But she don't want to hear it. She just want to find reasons to blame someone else and not her own people. Hey, black communities, we need to change our decision-making. We need to change our behavior so we can get a better outcome. You complain. And there's one thing I can't stand about people. I can't stand people who complain about not having the same stuff as someone else, but they don't do the same behaviors, the same actions as someone else. Oh, I'm mad that all these, let's say, these group of white people, they all happen to be 6 feet, ripped, in shape, and all the black people tend to be fat. Oh, but look at these people. Look at these white people. It's because they're white that they're able to maintain all that. Hey, do you exercise like them? I see these group of people go out every day and exercise. Do you exercise like them? Oh, no, we don't exercise like them. Oh, I see how they eat. They eat very clean. Do you eat clean like them? No. We like our McDonald's and Burger King. Why are you mad you're not healthy like them then? You can't be mad at the outcomes if you're not doing the same behaviors that lead to those outcomes. And this has been the number one argument that debunks systematic racism. The reality of systematic racism is you're mad at the systematic behaviors that your people choose to do of their free will, and you're mad about the outcomes. And you're mad that people systematically do other behaviors that gives them another outcome. You like the outcome, but you don't like the work that leads to that outcome. And that is what many people are starting to get pissed off with a lot of black people when they skew systematic racism. I digress. I'll let this video wrap up.
In the United States at this current moment.
What are my question to you is, what are you unable to achieve? Because I think you can achieve that. I believe in you. I believe in you to achieve that.
I'm just saying, why is that the case?
And the numbers, because I believe the number one factor.
Why is that the case?
I believe the number one factor that determines whether you succeed in this country is not your skin color. It is whether or not you actually put in the effort to do what you want.
Exactly. And all you pointed out with your data, your statistics, is that the black people, most black people, are not willing to do that to be competitive. Because we're not talking about laziness. I'm not saying all that. I'm saying being competitive, because it's a competitive world, right? So if you want like the NBA, and black people dominate that. No one's crying about, why is that the case, black woman? Why is it the case that 78% of the NBA is black when this country is 66% white? Don't you find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious, right? White people can play the same game. And me, I'm against racial supremacy in all its forms, whether it's black supremacists, Asian supremacists, Hispanic supremacists, white supremacists. I'm against racial supremacy because I believe race has no factor, should not be considered a factor into the outcomes that you have in this country and in life. That's a growth mindset that I have. I don't have a fixed mindset. And what I believe the black culture is doing, the black culture is the biggest problem holding black people back, is because I believe the black culture instills a fixed mindset into the black community. If you don't know what a fixed mindset is the self-help stuff. But essentially, the black culture conditions black people to have a fixed mindset based on their race. Based on their race, they cannot do X. Based on their race, they cannot do Y. Based on their race, it's going to be harder to do X. So logically, if you make a logical argument, it's going to be harder to do these things. What incentive are you giving people to even try in the first place? And this is what's really holding black America back. And I'm tired. I'm tired of hearing the excuses. I'm tired of hearing, systematic racism, generational curses. The only generational curse that I see here is that older generations of black people instill a fixed mentality in the current generations of black people. And look at the results. Because like I said, and I'm going to end off the video with this saying, data does not prove a narrative. Data only proves a result. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with my stance on systematic racism? Disagree? Agree? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.